Alright, today I'm going to show you how to add a multi-stepper widget in your Flutter app. So let's create a new Flutter project. I'm going to run the command palette. I'm going to type Flutter new project and select the empty application. So I'm going to name it Flutter multi-step form, and it's a demo. So Flutter has created a new boilerplate. So I'm going to select my emulator. I'm going to run it. So I'm just going to move a little bit. Alright, and run it. So now we're going to see our Flutter app on the right side inside the emulator. Firstly, I'm going to remove the debug banner. So inside my material app, I'm going to remove the debug banner. Debug show check mode banner is going to be false. I'm going to save it. So the app refreshes. There's no debug banner anymore. And after that, I'm going to create a new widget. That is going to be our home widget. I'm going to type stf to create a stateful widget. I'm going to call it home. I'm going to save it, and in the scaffold, remove the scaffold, and I'm going to add home and save it. So the app refreshes and it is showing the placeholder from here. So I'm going to replace constant placeholder with a scaffold. Save it. So instead it's going to show a scaffold here. I'm going to add an app bar, and this is an app bar. And I'm going to give the app bar title a test widget. This is a multi-step form demo. I'm going to add a comma here, and the background color is going to be colors.blue, and the foreground color is going to be colors.white, and gonna save it. So we are seeing an app bar here with our title widget. Then we're going to add a stepper inside the scaffold. So this is going to be the scaffold body. So after the app bar, we're going to add a comma and hit enter. We're going to go to next line. This is going to be body of the scaffold, and we're going to add stepper. So we have to add steps variable, steps property inside the steps property of the stepper. So we're going to replace it with form steps. So after that, I'm going to create a list of steps. So this is going to be form steps, and inside it I'm going to return an array. Return array. Inside the array there are going to be steps. In this example, we're going to create 3 steps. So this is step 1. I'm going to add a title. I'm going to add test widget. This is going to be, let's say, step 1. And I'm going to add content. Inside the content, we're going to add a test form field. Okay, so I'm going to select the step, Control C, copy, and Control V, and I'm going to replace step 2. This is going to be step 3. So I'm going to hit save. So inside the emulator, we are seeing step 1, 2, 3, but it's no button is working, and the steps are not clickable, not tabbable. There's no function at all. We need to make the continue button and cancel button working. So if we hit the continue button, it should be proceeding to the next step, and when we hit the cancel button, it should be going back to the previous step. So this can be done with on step continue and on step cancel inside the stepper. So this is the steps property, and after that we're going to add on step continue. If the continue button is clicked, we're going to progress to the next step. So we need to tell the widget tree that we need to go to the next step. To tell the widget tree, we need to use the set state. And inside the set state, we have to notify the widget tree to go to the next step. We need to create a new variable that is going to be current step. So we need to notify the current step increment with +1 value. To make it where we have to create an empty variable or with a default value under the widget state. So this is here. We're going to create initial step value. So this is going to be an integer current step. We'll make it default 0, which is the first step by the default. So when we click the continue button, the current step will be incremented +1. So hit save. So the button is not faded, it should be working. When we hit the continue button, it's not proceeding to the next step. It's because it still doesn't know what is going to be the current step value. So inside the stepper, we're going to add a new property, current step. We have to assign this property with current step value and hit save button. So we're going to see an error because the stepper doesn't know how to do when the last step has reached. When we reach the last step, it doesn't have to go anywhere. So to solve this, we have to add another variable inside on step continue. So we're going to declare a final variable, let's say last step. So when the current step is the form steps dot length -1. So the third step inside the form steps array, the index is going to be 2. So the first step is 0, second step is 1, and third step is 2. So the length of the array is actually 3. So the index of the array is going to be -1 of the length. So when the current step is -1 of the form steps array's length, this is going to be a boolean value of the last step. So the last step boolean will be true when it is going to be the third step inside the array. So when it is the last step, if it's going to be last step, we'll just have to, sorry, at this typo, last step, we're gonna have to save the data to the database. And if it's not the last step, we'll just have to proceed to the next step. So we're gonna place it here and save it. And to render the widget tree again, we're going to restart the app. Alright, so when we hit the continue button, it's going to the next step. So when we hit the continue button at third step, it's not going anywhere. It's going to save the database. So it's working, by the way, and we're going to have to add action for the cancel button. Right now the cancel button doesn't do anything. So to make it work, we're going to add on step cancel. So inside the stepper, we're going to add on step cancel. Inside it, we're going to create set state to tell a widget tree that we're going to move to the previous step. Decrement the current step value, so decrement 1 from the current step. Hit save. It will throw an error as well. When we hit the cancel button, go into previous, hit the button, go in previous, and right there it will throw an error because for the first step we can't go backward, we can go to the previous step. So to fix it, we're going to tell the widget tree to know that we are not right now in the first step. To make this working, we're going to add a variable inside onStep cancel that we're going to know we're going to tell if current step is 0. The index of the current step, if it is 0, we're going to make it null. If the index is not 0, we're going to set state that the current step should be right there. I'm going to cut it and paste it inside, and let's say there you go. Okay, alright, so we're gonna restart the app. So when we click the continue button, it's just going to the next step. When we hit the cancel button, oh no, it's not going back anymore because of the brackets here. So let's remove it, and let's remove it. Alright, and hit save. So when we click the cancel, it's going back, and when we arrive at the first step, it's null. So continue, cancel, not working. It is working as expected. The next step is the current step is not highlighted. It's still step 1, step 2, 3. It doesn't change their style when it is the current step. So we're going to add a property inside each step. I'm just going to add is active property. When the current step is more than or equal 0, it will show an active state. So it has completed, and when we go back to the step 2, it should be working as well. So we're gonna copy it and paste it and paste it. So it's going to be 1, it's going to be 2, hit save. So it is showing active state property and is highlighted as well. And after that, we're going to change the icon of each step. So when we have completed entering information on each step, we're going to replace it with a completed icon. So this can be done with state. In the state property, we're going to add step state dot index. That means the current number value. That means the index. If we add complete, and it will show a check mark icon, so we can switch between indexed and complete style. We're going to replace it with if current step is more than 0, we're going to create step state complete. That means if it is currently at index 0, we're going to return a step state dot index, then hit save button. So after that, we're going to cancel. So it's going back to the index property, and hit continue. It's showing as completed. We're going to copy it and paste it here. Greater than 1 means it is after the current step. So we don't have to do this for the last step, because when it is completed, we'll be already in the next page. So it doesn't matter whether we have to replace a new icon or not. So to make it clear, we're going to add some comments for making the code readable. So this is going to switch icon. This is to tell the stepper current step value. Alright, and this is what happens on console button, and this is continue button. So now this is, we let the stepper know whether the last step. Alright, and after that we're going to change the theme color of the stepper. To make this working, we have to wrap the stepper widget with a theme widget. So click the light bulb, and we're going to warp with widget, and this time this is going to be a theme. So a theme widget should include a data property. So the data is theme.of contest with copy and color scheme to color scheme.light. So light should be a primary color, and it is going to be a colors of blue acid. So I'm going to hit save. So we're going to add a comma after that. So hit save. So it's changing to blue. So this line of code is working. Theme color of the stepper. Currently, each step is not tabbable. We can only go back and forth through the buttons. So we're going to make each step clickable or tabbable. So this is going to be on step tabbed property. So we're going to add after that we're going to add a comma. So this is what happens when the user tabs each step. So this is not on step tapped. We're going to add a closure. So we're going to assign a current step variable with the value of the tab. So to make the widget tree render again, we need to add a set state property. Let's go cut it and paste it here and hit save. Alright, when we click it, it's going back, going forth, going forth. Alright, it's working. And after that we're going to replace the buttons here, which is going to be the default material design buttons. To replace it, we need to add controls builder property. So after that we're going to customize buttons. So controls builder. So inside contest details, we're going to return inside a container. Inside the container we're going to add a row. Inside the row we have children. Children will be buttons. So elevated button and another elevated button. So this is going to be on pressed. Currently it won't work anything, and again this will, and again this is currently not gonna work anything, and we need to add child test widget next, and again child test widget back. Hit save. So this is going to be a next and back button. So we need to replace it with details dot on step continue, and we need to replace this with details dot on step cancel. So hit save button, go to next, back. Alright, it's working. So we need to add some spacing between these two buttons. So let's say size box is going to be constant, sized box. So this is going to be having a width of 10. Let's see. Alright, and we can wrap it with a container to have a more margin. So we need to add some margin with etched inset only top of 20. Alright, so when we hit the next button, when it is the last step, we have to replace the next test widget with a complete or a finished test widget. Let's go to the test next widget. So when it is about the last step, we're going to replace it with complete value. So here, when it is last step, we will going to replace it with complete. We have to declare boolean. Last step will be when the current step is form step length -1. Alright, let's hit save button. So it's going to be changing to a complete test widget. So going back, next, forward, complete. So let's proceed to the back button. When we hit the back button and when we get back to the first step, we should hide the back button. So we need to make this elevated button for the on step cancel. We can do this with here. Let's say make the cancel button on first step. So when the current step it's not equal to 0, that means when it is not the first step, the elevated button will be showing to the user. We're gonna hit save. We're currently on the step 1, the cancel button is not there. When we hit next button, it is appearing, and when we hit the next button, it's still there. When we hit back and back, boom, it's gone. Maybe you noticed that the buttons are not showing the consistent size. So when we replace with the test widget here, this button became wider and narrower. So we need to make the consistent size. It's quite simple. We need to wrap it with a sponded widget to occupy space as much as possible. So we're going to go to the elevated button and wrap with widget with a sponded. Hit save, and again we're going to wrap it with expanded. Alright, hit save. So now you'll see these buttons are occupying a Z-same space. So back, next, complete. Alright. So when the user has clicked the complete button, we don't want to show this form to the user anymore, and instead we're going to replace with a new widget to tell the user that the data entry process is successfully done. So we need to build a new widget. So just go there just before the last bracket. We're going to make new build completed widget and return center widget. Inside the child, we're going to return a container. The margin should be edge inset directional all 20, and its child should be column. The children of the column should be an icon. Icons dot check and a test widget. There's going to be your data entry is completed, and after that I'm going to add a size box to add a space between the button and the test widget. So I'm going to add a height of 20, and after that we're going to add an elevated button, allowing the user to be able to create a new form entry. So this is going to be a test widget, enter new record. That will go back to the form. So on the on-press, we're going to add a setState function, and after that we're going to add current step will be 0. It will go to the first step and hit save button. When we hit the complete button, that won't work because we hadn't added that action. We hadn't loaded that build complete widget when we hit the complete button. To make this work, we need to go back to the widget state. Up there, right there, we need to set default completed state. So there's going to be boolean is completed. Initially it is going to be false. So inside the body we're going to return that is completed. If it is completed, we're going to return build completed widget. Otherwise we're going to return the entire stepper and the form. So let's hit save and going to see what happens, and we click the complete button. Right now we're not going to see any changes. We need to add action on the on step continue. When it is the last step, we're going to save the data to the database. We need to make is completed state to true. Completed is set to true. Is completed to true. Hit save. So if it's not the last step, this is not going to be true. To make this work, we need to add a setState. There you go, and we're going to cut it and paste it inside. Hit save. We're going to press the button. It's not going back to the stepper and the form. Here we have to set is completed to false again. There you go. So this is making the back to the first step, and this is making back to the stepper and the form. Hit save button. So when we hit the enter new record button, stepper is appearing. When we enter complete, widget is showing. So in this demo I have added only 3 steps, but it will be so much useful for very long forms like questionnaires, survey forms, where you have to collect a lot of information from the user. You're using a mobile device, your data collectors are using tablet and mobile phones to enter information. In these cases, these multi-step form widget is very useful. Alright, thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Bye bye.